In what universe would you expect to see the crossover of Tim Burton, Corey Feldman, and Mr. Haney from Green Acres? None other than the universe of the 1980s, of course. The year was 1981 to be exact. Throw in Kurt Russell and Pearl Bailey for extra measure, and you have some of the components that make up one of my favorite animated films as a child. None other than the
Hey Gen Xers, it's me, John B. Level 52, and this here's the John X Journal.
One of my favorite animated films as a child was The Fox and the Hound. We owned it on VHS, but I specifically remember seeing it in the movie theater when it was released in July of 1981. I was a mere 8 years old, which was still young enough to believe what I was seeing up on the big screen as real, even though it was animated, and old enough apparently to tap into real feelings, like the real feeling of sadness, because that movie made me cry like a babe. I'm not too afraid to admit it. The story was adapted from a novel of the same name, but then Disney-fied to remove all the death from it to become the movie that we remember as kids. The story of a red fox named Todd and a young hound named Copper who become thick as thieves friends, only to discover they instinctually are to become mortal enemies in adulthood. The Fox and the Hound marked a time of transition for Disney animation, a switching of guards, so to speak, to a newer generation of directors and animators away from their predecessors who were known as the Disney's 9 Old Men. Now, this new crew included great talents such as John Lasseter, John Musker, Ron Clements, and even a young 23-year-old Tim Burton. And that was just to name a few. The characters in the film were memorable as all heck thanks to the voices behind them. Early casting solidified Corey Feldman as a young Copper, and Keith Coogan as a young Todd.
What do you do that for?
You might remember Coogan from his 2 non-related babysitter movies, and of course you remember Feldman from everything 1980s. Now the adult Fox and Hound were voiced by Disney veterans Mickey Rooney, who had just come off of filming Pete's Dragon, and Kurt Russell coming off of the televised biopic of Elvis, respectively. Now this was one of 10 movies that Kurt Russell did for Disney, but was the only animated film to which he lent his voice. 2 of the most memorable voices in the film were proffered up by the inimitable Pearl Bailey, the well-meaning maternal-like owl who advises Todd of the inevitable demise of his friendship with Copper.
Now, Copper's gonna do what he's been told.
Copper is gonna be my enemy?
You better believe it, Todd.
And then, of course, there was Chief, the long-toothed Irish wolfhound,
Can't tell these young whippersnappers anything.
which was voiced by Pat Buttram, aka Mr. Haney from Green Acres. Now there was controversy amongst the story team on whether or not Chief should be killed off like he was in the novel, but ultimately Disney just gave him a splinted leg and allowed him to live. Some of the artists and writers didn't think that this heightened the tension enough to justify the divide between the Hound and the Fox. But still, Disney was not keen off killing off one of their characters, which I found to be a tad odd because what happened to Bambi's mother? No, seriously, what happened to Bambi's mother? I think the original story, the novel The Fox and the Hound, killed off a lot of characters. Like, I think even the main character Todd dies from exhaustion and his girlfriend gets mauled, I think, by Copper. Not to mention, I think that there were rabies running rampant amongst the Fox community, which ended up killing some of the human children. But I guess luckily Disney decided to spare us all that childhood trauma. What happened to Bambi's mother? So all the characters, including Todd and Vixie, live. Oh, again, Vixie is Todd's girlfriend out in the wild when he's taken out to a reserve, and she teaches him the lay of the land and how to adapt.
Todd, I just know you're gonna love the forest. Listen, come on, let me show you around.
And this character was voiced by none other than the 70s, 80s staple, Sandy Duncan. And her character Vixie was assigned to and animated by none other than Tim Burton. Fun fact, one of the scenes that did not make the final film was a scene that led into a song that was sung by 2 swooping cranes, voiced by Phil Harris, who was our Big Blue in the Jungle Book and Little John in Robin Hood, alongside none other than Charo. Right, that Charo. Love Boat Charo. The surreal life Charo, that Charo. Charo almost made it into another corner of our psyche through The Fox and the Hound by singing a song called Scooby Dooby Dooby Doo, Turn Your Body into Goo. A song and singing that was ultimately cut because they said it distracted from the main plot. Now, The Fox and the Hound was received with mixed reviews critically, but the box office success was undeniable, and so is the etchings into our childhood memories. So Todd and Copper live on in our tiny stone-cold Gen X hearts, and thanks to VHS, DVD, and streaming, into the hearts of our children and our children's children. Yes, you are that old. So if you need other reasons to feel old, or you just want to relive other Gen X nostalgia, I'd love it if you could smash all those buttons so that you can keep my dream alive. No, seriously, hit those buttons, hit that bell. I'll be your best friend.
Why, it's you.